Triple H breaks down in tears at Hulk Hogan's funeral, emotional tribute that left everyone speechless. You won't believe what Triple H said in his heartfelt speech as the WWE Universe said goodbye to the legendary Hulk Hogan. In this powerful and emotional video, we take you inside the unforgettable funeral of Hulk Hogan. WWE Chief Content Officer Triple H delivered a moving eulogy that brought fans and superstars alike to tears. From personal stories to a touching farewell, this tribute honors the legacy of one of wrestling's most iconic figures. The day began in quiet reverence. No pyrotechnics, no entrance music, no roaring crowd. Just a stillness that clung to the Florida air like a memory refusing to fade. For once, the spotlight wasn't on the ring. It was on the legacy of a man who made millions believe in the power of training hard, saying your prayers, and never giving up. Hulk Hogan, born Terry Bollea, was gone. And the world of wrestling, for all its showmanship and grandeur, stood still in mourning. The chapel was draped in subtle red and yellow florals, an homage to the colors that once lit up arenas around the globe. The mourners filed in slowly, each face marked by the weight of loss. WWE legends sat shoulder to shoulder in silence, Ric Flair, visibly shaken and teary-eyed. Shawn Michaels, head bowed in prayer. Paul Heyman, solemn and distant. And then there was Triple H, real name Paul Levesque, Chief Content Officer of WWE, longtime friend, and now the man who would bear the impossible task of saying goodbye to a giant. When Triple H stepped forward to speak, a hush swept over the entire room. He didn't begin with platitudes or rehearsed lines. His voice trembled from the very first sentence. Today, we don't just say goodbye to Hulk Hogan. We say goodbye to a pillar of this business. We say goodbye to a brother. His eyes scanned the sea of grief before him. Hogan's family seated in the front row, WWE Superstars past and present behind them, and a community shattered by the passing of one of its brightest flames. Triple H paused, took a shaky breath, and looked toward the casket. Draped in a custom robe, adorned with a replica of the classic WWE Championship belt, Hogan rested peacefully, his legacy unshakable even in death. When I was a kid, Triple H continued, I didn't just watch Hogan on TV. I idolized him. He made me want to be a wrestler. He made millions of us want to be larger than life. And yet, behind the show, behind the power moves and the slogans, there was a man named Terry. A kind, complicated, passionate soul. He shared the story of the first time he met Hogan. It wasn't backstage or at some glittering WWE event. It was in a dusty gym in Tampa. Hogan had walked in wearing his bandana, sunglasses, and that signature grin. He walked over to me, Triple H recalled, smiling faintly through the grief, and said, "Brother, I've been hearing good things about you. Let's see if you're the real deal." The room laughed gently, the memory offering a brief moment of levity amidst the sorrow. But it quickly gave way to silence as Triple H's voice cracked. And that day, I realized that Hulk Hogan wasn't just a character. He was a mentor. A protector. A symbol of everything we loved about this business. Triple H then addressed the next generation of wrestlers, many of whom sat quietly in the back rows. For those of you who only knew the myth, let me tell you about the man. Terry was fiercely loyal. He would pick up the phone at 2 a.m. if you needed him. He would fight for you in rooms you weren't allowed into. He cared, deeply, maybe too deeply sometimes, about the business, about the fans, about all of us. As he spoke, Triple H's voice began to quiver again, and he reached into his jacket, pulling out a small envelope. He held it up gently. I found this letter in my desk this morning. I didn't even remember I had it. Terry wrote it to me back in 2006 after WrestleMania. He said, "You're doing great things, brother. Keep the torch burning. The kids are watching." The words hung in the air, like a final blessing from a man who shaped eras. Triple H folded the letter and placed it on top of the casket. The emotions in the room were rising like waves, silent but powerful. Tears flowed freely now, not just from the veterans in the front, but from younger superstars who had grown up idolizing Hogan. You could see it in Roman Reigns' eyes, in Seth Rollins' clenched jaw, in Becky Lynch's trembling hands. This wasn't just a funeral. It was a farewell to an era. And Triple H, with every sentence, was reminding the world of just how rare a presence Hulk Hogan was. He continued, sharing how even during Hogan's last days, confined to a hospital bed and fighting to breathe, he still asked about the fans. He told me, "Don't let them forget me, brother. Remind them who I was." And I told him, "You don't have to worry about that. You're immortal." Triple H's voice broke on the word. Immortal. It was the gimmick. The catchphrase. But today, it felt more like a prayer. As the tribute deepened, Triple H spoke about forgiveness. About how the wrestling world is often a tangled web of egos, rivalries, misunderstandings. And yet, somehow, Hogan had found peace. "We had our differences," he admitted candidly. "There were times we didn't see eye to eye. But when you strip away the headlines, the heat, the backstage politics, what remained was a bond no storyline could break." He turned his gaze to Hogan's children, Brooke and Nick, both weeping silently. "Your father was our superhero. But more than that, he was your dad. And he was proud of you. More than he ever let on in public. He told me once, 'They're my real legacy. And I hope you carry that with you for the rest of your lives.'" At this point, even the strongest in the room could no longer hold back. The tears were unfiltered. There was no kayfabe here. Just real pain, real love, and real memory. Triple H took one final breath and stepped closer to the casket. He reached out and laid his hand gently on it. "Thank you, Terry," he whispered. "For everything. For making us believe. For fighting for us when no one else did. And for reminding us that legends never truly die. They just step away from the ring." He stepped back, and the room erupted, not in applause, but in pure, raw silence. A silence that said more than any cheer could. It was respect. It was goodbye. It was the sound of an industry bowing its head. Outside the chapel, the Florida sun continued to shine. Birds chirped as if unaware of the magnitude of loss the world inside had just experienced. Mourners slowly exited the venue, many wiping tears, others embracing in long, wordless hugs. No one rushed. No one spoke loudly. It was as though the presence of Hogan still lingered in the air, gentle, watchful, proud. Back inside, Triple H remained seated alone on the front pew for a moment longer. His eyes locked on the casket, his shoulders slightly slumped under the invisible weight of history. He wasn't the game anymore. He wasn't the boss. He was just Paul. A friend. A brother in arms. A man saying farewell to someone who helped build the very foundation he now protects. And as he finally stood, nodded once toward the heavens, and made his way to the exit, the words he had spoken earlier echoed again in the minds of everyone present, "You're immortal." And somehow, despite the pain, despite the loss, despite the finality of it all, those words rang true. Hulk Hogan may have left this world. But inside that chapel, and inside every wrestling fan who ever heard the words, "Whatcha gonna do, brother?" he lives on. Outside the chapel, the air felt different. Time, it seemed, had paused out of respect. The WWE Superstars, producers, crew members, and lifelong friends of Hulk Hogan stood scattered across the memorial grounds, some in clusters, others in solitary reflection. Cameras were absent, and no press had been allowed beyond the gates. This was not for spectacle. This was for Hogan. And for a moment, even the world of wrestling, normally bursting with drama, character, and performance, had surrendered to something far more real. Triple H stood beneath a modest oak tree near the burial site, his hands tucked in his suit pockets. He wasn't speaking now. There were no speeches left. He had said what needed to be said inside the chapel. But his silence out here was just as powerful. Roman Reigns approached him, placed a hand on his shoulder, and nodded. No words were exchanged. They weren't needed. That's how deep Hogan's impact ran. It could unite generations with a single glance, a single moment of shared reverence. Not far off, Ric Flair stood beside Shawn Michaels. Both were quiet, lost in memories. He was the heartbeat, Flair eventually muttered, eyes fixed on the ground. He made us all feel like gods in that ring. Michaels didn't respond. He simply reached over, squeezed Flair's arm, and nodded. The grief was shared, but each man wore it differently. Back inside the WWE headquarters, news of Hogan's funeral had spread like wildfire. Social media was flooded with messages of mourning, tribute videos, and fan art from all over the world. Hashtags like #Thank You Hogan, #Immortal Forever, and #Real American were trending globally. For fans who grew up watching him slam Andre the Giant, or tear off his shirt to thunderous ovations, it wasn't just a loss. It was the end of a mythos. A farewell to the man who redefined what it meant to be larger than life. And yet, through all the tears and tributes, the true emotional centerpiece remained Triple H's speech. Clips of it, though filmed only on internal WWE cameras, had begun to leak in controlled fashion, short segments released by WWE's official channels. One part in particular had gone viral, the moment when Triple H, voice cracking, said, "You don't have to worry about being remembered. You're immortal." It wasn't just a quote, it became a mantra. Wrestlers tweeted it. Fans wrote it in chalk outside WWE arenas. Even rival wrestling companies posted tributes, all echoing that one sentiment: Hogan may be gone, but his legacy is eternal. In the days that followed the funeral, WWE announced that the next Monday Night Raw would be a full tribute show, dedicated entirely to Hulk Hogan. Triple H made the call himself. "It's what he would have wanted," he said during a closed meeting with creative heads. He didn't want a statue. He didn't want tears. He wanted a show. A celebration. And so, the planning began. The show opened with a slow fade-in of Hogan's iconic entrance music, but not the blaring version. This one was slowed down, orchestral, hauntingly beautiful. The stage was lit in gold, and Hogan's signature feather boas were draped across the ring posts. The Jumbotron flashed moments from his career: WrestleMania 3, the Mega Powers, his return to WWE in the 2000s. It wasn't a timeline, it was a tapestry of greatness. Triple H opened the show in the ring. But this time, he didn't speak as the corporate executive or the on-screen legend. He addressed the WWE Universe as a friend in mourning. "Tonight," he said, "we don't mourn a death. We celebrate a life. A life that gave us moments we'll never forget. A life that made us cheer louder, dream bigger, and believe more fiercely than we ever thought possible." Then, as if guided by Hogan's spirit, the crowd erupted in one final chant: "Hogan! Hogan! Hogan!" It was deafening. And for a brief second, it felt as if the roof might come off the arena, just like it used to when he hit the ring in his prime. And standing there, in the center of that storm of love, was Triple H. His eyes welled up again, but this time it wasn't sorrow. It was gratitude. Backstage, Superstars shared personal stories. Randy Orton spoke about how Hogan used to visit him when he was a child, back when his father Bob Orton was wrestling. Bianca Belair recalled watching old tapes of Hogan with her brothers, dreaming of the day she'd main event WrestleMania. The Miz, who rarely breaks character, stood silently before a monitor, whispering, "He made us all believe we could be superheroes." And then came the final tribute of the night: an empty ring, spotlight in the center, and Hogan's championship belt resting on a folded red and yellow robe. A video montage played, fans from all over the globe sharing what Hogan meant to them. Children in hospitals, grown men in tears, wrestlers across promotions. The message was simple: he wasn't just a wrestler. He was an idea. The idea that strength could come with kindness, that toughness could pair with loyalty, and that sometimes, just sometimes, you really could overcome the odds. Triple H watched from gorilla position, his arm around Stephanie McMahon. Neither of them said a word as the montage ended and the screen faded to black with one simple phrase: Hulk Hogan, 1953 to 2025, immortal forever. And as the crowd stood silently, hats off, heads bowed, Triple H stepped back from the curtain and exhaled. He had done what no match, no promo, no title ever could. He had given one of wrestling's greatest icons the farewell he deserved. Back at home, Triple H later posted a single photo to his social media. It was of him and Hogan backstage at a WrestleMania years ago, arms around each other, grinning like kids. The caption read, "Thank you for believing in me, brother. I'll keep the torch burning. Always." The photo went viral in minutes. Thousands replied. Legends like Stone Cold Steve Austin, John Cena, and even The Rock commented, sharing their memories. But it wasn't just the wrestling world that paid attention. Sports networks, entertainment media, and even political figures acknowledged the loss. Hulk Hogan wasn't just a wrestler. He was Americana. He was a symbol of perseverance, charisma, and boldness at a time when the world needed heroes. In the weeks that followed, Triple H pushed for more than just a Raw tribute. He worked with WWE board members to establish the Hogan Legacy Scholarship, a grant dedicated to young athletes pursuing wrestling, sports therapy, and performance arts. "We don't want his memory to just sit in the past," he said. "We want it to lift the next generation." And that was the real essence of Hogan's legacy. Not the title reigns, not the WrestleMania moments, not even the pop culture stardom. It was the inspiration he left behind. The countless young boys and girls who stood in front of their televisions, shirtless, bandana tied, flexing like their hero. The ones who, for even a moment, believed they could conquer the world. Triple H knew that better than anyone. Because once upon a time, he was that kid. He had said goodbye. But the fire Hogan left behind would keep burning, through him, through the fans, through the ring. Forever. Weeks turned into months, but the loss of Hulk Hogan still echoed through every corner of the wrestling world. WWE's arenas continued to roar with chants of Hogan. Hogan, whenever his music played in tribute. Merchandise bearing his likeness flew off shelves. And behind the scenes, Triple H found himself walking a careful line, balancing grief with the responsibility of steering the company forward. But no matter how busy he became, the memory of that speech at Hogan's funeral never left him. He would later tell a close friend, "That was the hardest thing I've ever done. Not the matches. Not the boardrooms. That speech broke me." Privately, Triple H struggled with the silence Hogan left behind. For decades, Terry Bollea had been more than just a headline or a larger-than-life figure. He had been a phone call away. A sounding board. A wise voice that offered perspective only time and battle scars could provide. Now, when Triple H looked at his phone, there were no more texts that started with "brother," no more late-night calls about future Hall of Fame classes or developmental talents to watch. He missed him. Stephanie noticed it too. She watched as her husband stared blankly at walls between meetings. She saw him hesitate before approving Hogan tributes for WWE Network specials, knowing each decision reopened a wound that hadn't yet healed. But despite the ache, Triple H turned the pain into purpose. He greenlit a docuseries chronicling Hogan's life, not just the flashy career moments, but the quiet, raw, behind-the-scenes reality of a man who redefined the business and bore the weight of its evolution. It was titled Immortal: The True Life of Hulk Hogan. Triple H insisted that it be honest. No sugarcoating, he told the production team. He was complex. And he deserves to be remembered for all of it. In the opening episode, it was Triple H himself who introduced the series. Shot in black and white, with no background music, he looked straight into the camera. No script. No cue cards. Just truth. "When we lose someone like Hogan," he began, "we don't just lose the wrestler. We lose the dreamer. The fighter. The friend. The flawed, brilliant, unforgettable man who stood behind the gimmick. And when someone that big is gone, it's like the air feels thinner. The ring feels quieter." His voice wavered, but he didn't stop. He helped build the foundation we all walk on. He bled for this business. He carried it on his back, through controversy, through comeback, through change. And whether you loved him or questioned him, you can't deny what he did. He changed everything. As the series aired week by week, fan letters poured into WWE headquarters. People shared stories of meeting Hogan in airports, at fundraisers, at hospitals. One letter, read aloud by TripleH in the final episode, came from a father in Detroit whose son had been battling leukemia. "He made my boy smile when nothing else could," it read. "He sent a video, said he was praying for him. My son played that clip every day. It made him feel strong. Like he had a chance." TripleH paused after reading the letter. You could see the tears well in his eyes again. "That was him," he said quietly. "That was Terry." In an internal meeting months later, when talks of the next Hall of Fame ceremony came up, someone asked if Hogan's name should be honored again, even though he'd already been inducted. TripleH didn't hesitate. "We're inducting him again," he said firmly. "This time, not as a performer. As a legacy." And so, on the grandest stage of all, WrestleMania, the company did something it had never done before. A posthumous legacy induction, in front of a sold-out crowd in Las Vegas. The stadium darkened. A single spotlight hit the stage. And once again, it was TripleH who walked out, dressed in a simple black suit, no entrance music, no pomp, just presence. He stood center stage, crowd thundering around him, and raised the mic. "Tonight," he said, "we do something unprecedented. We honor a man twice. Because once wasn't enough. Not for a man who defined eras, shaped generations, and made this place, the entire WWE universe, what it is today." The crowd erupted. "We lost him. But we didn't lose the fight he gave us. We didn't lose the belief he instilled in every kid who ripped their shirt off in the mirror and posed like a champion. We didn't lose the immortal. Because immortality means never truly being gone." As he said the words, the stadium screen lit up with never-before-seen footage of Hogan, training young wrestlers, joking backstage, hugging Make-A-Wish children, and embracing veterans. The crowd watched, many in tears, as the voice of Hogan himself echoed over the arena speakers. "To all my Hulkamaniacs, thank you for riding with me. I'll see you on the other side, brother." The entire stadium stood in unison. Thousands of people, fans, families, and wrestlers, raising their hands to their foreheads in salute.